I'm a mother. That is my first priority. My children are my pride and literal joy. I am an advocate for youth, and I know that I can no longer allow my fear and anxiety to stop me from using my voice or for allow it to silence my voice. I realize that me being quiet about this and my experience is number one, to trigger the enemy, and it's an old coping mechanism that I don't want to use, and I don't want it to become familiar. And that coping mechanism is me feeling fear, extreme anxiety with regards to trauma and going through trauma. And I don't want to do that anymore, or have the need to protect my or the abuser, or put other people's feelings or opinions above my own healing. So I want to share with you something I wrote. It's 100% true. I want you to listen to the end. I'm not looking for sympathy. I would love for you to empathize, but I want you to listen to the end for my call to action. Like, I don't want anyone to watch this and go, "Oh, that's sad," and then you don't act. So that's my one ask for this, is that you listen to the end and you just be moved to act. Okay? So I'm just going to read what I wrote in my journal. June 8th. I must have written this in my heart about 50 times already. But being too angry, too tired, too broken, too afraid, and a little shameful to write and speak it. But who wants to live through another worst nightmare and retell it, only to have people be spectators or move on to the next topic or issue without a care or change heart or action? One reason I sealed my lips about this is because I shared with a small group of coworkers who asked how I was doing, and I was honest. I didn't say good with a half smile. I told them the truth. Some sat silent but touched, and before I could wipe the tears that had fallen, one girl chipperly says, "Ugh, I have like so much to do. Like, when are those papers due?" So from that point, I turned inward, no longer seeing the power and purpose of sharing my worst nightmare. But now I see the ties my silent behaviors and cries have to my childhood trauma. Those worthless defense mechanisms creeping in, like, what's it matter if I tell? They know about my worst nightmare, and they did nothing. My worst nightmare begins with my joy. My sweet, innocent Lily Jean joy. How could this baby, my joy, her life, be coupled with the phrase worst nightmare? It's unnatural. It's not of God. A story I don't want to tell. As a survivor of childhood trauma, it's your worst nightmare to have your own children be susceptible to any form of abuse or neglect. So we did everything right. So me asking why or how this happened, it's a question I won't ask anymore. So the stage was set, but this is not a script I want to write. In fact, I want the pages torn out and the scripts rewritten. On January 10th, 2020, our baby Lily Jean Joy was 2 days shy of being 3 months old. After praying and pleading with God and my stomach in knots, I placed my cell phone in her diaper bag on record, strategically, so it could hear it all. Now, I don't know what all of it was, but I didn't know what I would hear. But I know one baby plus 3 toddlers does not equal wrong or abuse. So how could my stomach be in knots some days upon visiting her home to nurse Joy on all of my scheduled breaks? She was 2 minutes down the street. I thought she'd be safe. I rushed that day, hoping to find nothing. But in retrospect, what I saw during my lunch break still haunts me today. I tiptoed in around 10:40 a.m. and took my phone from the diaper bag. I peeked around the corner into the room, and oddly, instead of the children napping on their cots, They were seated behind her, and their eyes darted my way as I peered into the room. A sweet boy, we'll call him, was slumped over and what I thought was asleep, but odd to me that he was on the floor. My baby Joy was asleep to her right in the bassinet. Finally, she, Mrs. Jones, wheeled her chair around from her slumber, and I thought, this is it. Today, I am done. I went to feed Joy, and I put my headphones in and began to listen. After 20 minutes of listening, I heard nothing, and it was time for me to go, and my heart thumped as I handed my sleeping baby back to her. I listened. My students worked in the classroom, and I listened, frightened about what I'd hear. One baby plus 3 toddlers should never equal abuse and neglect. One baby plus 3 toddlers should never equal abuse or neglect. My 2-hour 49-sound clip uncovers neglect and abuse. One baby plus 3 toddlers should never equate abuse. The switch in this woman's voice and her diction is pure evil. I hear my precious Joy, just shy of 2 months, whimper, and she cries and cries for over 15 minutes. And the only one who tried to comfort her was a little girl who we'll call Little Queen. At one point, one of the other kids appears to scratch Joy, and 4-year-old Little Queen tells him, "The baby doesn't like you scratching her. Lily Jean doesn't like that." Mrs. Jones never calling her name to comfort her, never coming back to tend to her needs, never coming in to provide the security and attention that our love that our children need. So for how many days during those dreadful 3.5 days did she neglect our baby? For how many hours did she steal joy from our joy? Evil. What else did she do? What else did she not do for our baby? We trusted her. There's so many systems in America that are broken. The foster care system, child protection agencies, and now I'm convinced that the Burleson County Community Action Program, the agencies for certifying childcare providers, is broken too. Now those sweet toddler foster children are broken again, just like me. You see, Joy, she won't remember any of this. I overprotect her. I hover over her. I hold her now so much because I don't know how many hours she cried while Mama was away nurturing other children. I hold her close and I check if she's breathing because I don't know if the times her cries were muffled on that audio or because she was restricted from doing so. I don't know if the red ring marks around her thighs, I don't know how those marks got there. I don't know what they did to her. She told us her husband was an engineer in Princeton who worked every single day, and they tell me that could still be true. But to me, he was just a man who hid in the dark downstairs and listened as his wife beat and broke children. You see, she beat and broke and assaulted and ridiculed and screamed at sweet boy for pooping his diaper. But that's what 2-year-olds are supposed to do. He sat in that diaper for over 2 hours, and she told him he shouldn't be able to eat breakfast because of it. She beat sweet boy. Under 3 years old, she beat him for pooping his diaper. She hit him over 12 times. I cried, and I counted each blow he took, and I sobbed with every cry. I'm broken again because of it. Because I don't know if he was asleep or unconscious the time I came to the house during my lunch break. And the little queen who looked after our baby, she beat and broke her for playing with a toy. And Mrs. Jones' twisted opinion she was being too bossy. And how many little black girls in foster care systems are beat and broken for accusations that don't fit their innocent characters? She beat that little queen for with a toy. I say our black queen because it's our duty to protect our children. It's our duty to nurture them. So I can't be silent anymore because I'm too hurt or too riddled by anxiety to speak. We, especially me, Sherrie, I have a responsibility to be a voice for children. Children in the foster care system are our responsibility. You see, Mrs. Jones, she beat and she broke and she insulted little Queen. She hit her over 19 times. I cried and I counted each blow she took, and I sobbed when she screamed. My heart still breaks. My school principal walked in that day as I was listening to the recording at my desk, and at the time he had no clue. Normally, I'm not one to sit at my desk with headphones in, not at all. But that day I was wearing headphones. I broke with each muffled cry when I heard my baby cry. That day I broke with every lashing she gave those children. We broke. One baby plus 3 toddlers should never equal abuse and neglect. After hearing the evil voice, it was time for me to go. I raced 70 miles per hour down the block praying I'd get pulled over. I got my baby and I went to the other room still listening with the headphones into the recording. And I heard her beat Sweet Baby for the first time. I packed joy frantically, hyperventilating as I heard the beating for the first time. I packed and I lied. I told her that my sister called and surprised me with a visit and wanted the baby, and that she was just down the street. I ran out of that house in the freezing temperatures and sobbed as my sister tried to calm me. With my baby in tow, I went back to the school building, wondering what I'd do, what I'd say about why I had my infant back at work with me. And I reported everything to the New Jersey Abuse Hotline. I reported everything to the Pemberton Township Police Department. I reported everything to the Burlington County Community Action Program. They supervise and they license providers and they give recommendations for child care centers that I run in the home. The nice lady who gave us the recommendation, she knows about this. She's the one who provides the professional development for providers. And with regards to our girl, the abuse and neglect is unfounded, or some legal terms that they use in the child protective system to say that something happened. Now, I don't want you to click off this video without hearing our call to action. I do understand that the Child Protective Agency cannot give me any information with regards to the other children who were in her care being abused. I get that. I'm an educator. I know that it's not okay to share records with someone who's not a parent or guardian of a child. But it just haunts me all the time, especially every day lately, that I wonder if those children who she admitted to me that they were foster children, I wonder if their biological parents know that they were being abused in this home. What I heard on that is abuse. I've even heard some of the investigators use the term, or maybe she used that form of discipline. That's not discipline. What I heard, and what I will let you hear some of, and you've already heard some of it yourself, was abuse. Those children in her home were under 4 years old, including my own, who was just shy of 3 months old. I want you to dial one of the numbers in the description and ask questions and request more transparent processes for reporting abuse of any kind. Now, my video is probably not the only video that you will see circulating on the web about people who have reported abuse, whether it be of minors or sexual assault of themselves, and being given the runaround. I just can't understand it. Especially when children are involved. I called the police several days knowing that even after I stopped taking my child, knowing that kids were still going, asking them to go do a wellness check, and it felt like I was being made to seem as if I was doing something wrong by wanting them to do a wellness check. And I don't even know if they ever did. But I know that the process for reporting abuse for any kind needs to be more transparent. I don't think that there should be any empty promises like I was given and unfulfilled requests. Now, I contacted Vivyan Saloka, which you'll find all of this information in the description, of BCAT Family Childcare Services. She monitors licensed providers, and she told me that I needed to file a complaint with the New Jersey Abuse Hotline, which I had already done. She told me she would email me, call me, and give me an update as to what would happen with Miss Jones. And I'm not going to withhold her name because I feel like I Google her, which most parents do when they're looking for care for their children, and nothing came up. So I'm not going to withhold her name. I don't feel like my therapist tells me that I don't feel that I have any responsibility in protecting an abuser, someone who abuses children. And I'm upset, but mainly I'm angry. And that's just something I'll have to work through in my own time. I know, and if you're watching this and you have childhood trauma surrounding abuse, you have no responsibility for protecting an abuser. So I'm not going to withhold her name, Norvis Jones. I did report to Vivyan Saloka with BCAT. She supervises providers who are licensed for in-home care, and she told me she would call me back, told me I needed to report to the New Jersey Hotline for Abuse. I did that, and I haven't heard anything back from her. Nothing. I did report this to the New Jersey Hotline for Abuse. I did have a very nice investigator, come out to our home. He did his job thoroughly. There's nothing I can say against this investigator. He did what he was supposed to do. But is the system flawed? I believe that it is. I want you to use the numbers in the description and ask for a more transparent process when reporting abuse. I want you to call Vivyan Saloka and ask her about Norvis Jones. Ask her if her childcare center in home is closed down. It needs to be closed down. Even if you say the neglect of my child, who had visible marks on her, regardless of if we know where they came from, they did not come from this house, and we all know that. They weren't there when I dropped her off. So I want you to ask Vivyan Saloka, and I want you to ask Sue Fenick of BCAT if Norvis Jones in-home childcare provider is closed. It needs to be closed. They told me that what could happen is she could be given recommendations for classes that need to be taken, and she could eventually reopen her childcare center, but she needs to be closed. I have been an educator for over 14 years, and what I know is that if me as a teacher, if I would have put my hands on anybody, or if it was suspected, I would not have a job. I would not have a job as a public education teacher. I would not have a job. Even while if I was being investigated, I would not be in the classroom. So the fact that she was able to still receive those children for several days after I reported her is a problem. Knowing that those children were foster kids, I'm pretty sure my investigator did their job, but I feel like the system is flawed, that children were still able to go back to her home after I had reported her for abuse, and I handed over audio of her beating these children several times. So I'm going to put all of this information in the description. If it sounds like I'm angry, it's because I am. And as my therapist tells me, like, Sherrie, it's okay to feel anger. It doesn't make you an angry person, and I know that I'm not an angry person, but I'm angry. And I know that that's something that I have to deal with. And it's taken me this long to be able to speak about it, because I just needed help processing my emotions behind it. But I do realize it's not my fault. I am an amazing mother. I still have motherly instincts. My therapist always says, girl, what you did was amazing. Like, you were able to catch on to things that people probably never ever caught on within 3 days. So I don't want you to watch this and click off of this video and just be like, oh, that's sad. I want you to be moved to act by using the numbers in the description and making a call and making sure this in-home childcare provider is closed. They did not or would not give me that information. I've heard nothing from BCAP, Burleson County Community Action Program. I heard nothing for them. They have right on their website that they give recommendations for childcare providers for in-home and for our county. And they gave me no information. Empty promises of being called and emailed back, and I received nothing. Another reason I'm doing this is because, like I said, I Googled her and I found nothing. And I'm not asking for anybody to go find her address or call her, or only thing I'm asking you to do is to call the numbers in the description so we can create systematic change. And I don't understand how you can give evidence of neglect and abuse and be given a letter that I was given, which I'll insert for you. I don't understand that. It was a bunch of jargon to me. So just be moved to act. And I don't plan to just put this video out there and just leave it here without education. I am going to follow up with education on how to choose a childcare provider if you're returning to work like me and you're like not wanting to go, because I did not want to go back to work. So I don't plan to leave this here. So if you're led, subscribe to the channel. I will have more videos about what to do if you are having to go back to work, because that's a reality for a lot of us mamas, that we have to work. So I do plan to do more coverage and more education about reporting abuse and how to find a childcare provider in your state, and what to look for, like signs and symptoms of abuse. I think that I've been trained in my own. Nobody gave me these trainings, but on my own, just being a survivor of abuse, like what to look for, that allowed me to pick things up so quickly within 3 days. So yeah, my contact information is in the description.